Hello, my sunshines, and welcome back to another episode of the Creating Sunshine podcast. I'm your host, Sarah, and we are here today to talk to you about building a business and building a business that's actually able to sustain itself and you throughout. So if you've been feeling like you're trying to hold your business together, maybe with your bare hands, then this episode's for you. I'm here with Stephanie Ross, who we also met. I've been announcing everyone this way recently, is we met in a networking group that I'm in. This is why I tell you guys, you have to get in these groups. But we met in the networking group that we're in called The Society, and she is the founder of Small Business Sister Circle. And we were talking a little bit more about this before we hit record. But what I love is at her core, she cares so deeply about women building businesses with their soul, but also she cares about community and support. And those are like three things that I absolutely am obsessed with because we're not building for right now. Like we are building something that's going to last. We're building legacies. We're building wealth for ourselves and our children and our futures. And we're going to be diving into all of that. We're going to be diving into different seasons of business, what we do when motivation is low or things feel really, really hard. But most importantly, how community and collaboration can be one of the most powerful growth strategies that you are ever going to use in your life. I tell you guys this all the time. We collaborate, we connect, we support each other. No one has to do this alone. So welcome to the show, Stephanie. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm excited to have this conversation.
Me too. And I was telling Stephanie when I was reading through her bio and her forms and everything that she filled out, I was like, oh, you've really been doing this for a while now. So when I was reading, it said like you started your first business when you were 20 years old. And I was like, oh my God, that's so amazing. And I think it's so inspiring to a lot of people listening too. But I always love to talk about how people got started, like how they had the courage to do the thing in the first place. And I was like, let's just take it all the way back. So if you can remember, I want you to think back to the moment maybe that you first felt called into entrepreneurship. Like where were you at in your life and what kind of gave you that courage to take that first step? Because I think there's a lot of people that have the idea, but then they kind of get stuck because they're nervous or they're scared or they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to figure it out. So like, what took you from idea to actually like implementation?
So it's a very distinct day in my memory that I got a phone call one day from a local mixed martial arts gym that had heard great things about the group fitness and yoga classes that I was teaching in my hometown just solely for fun. I really missed the energy of team sports. So I was a college student and just started teaching a class called Turbo Kick, which is like an old beach body format. And they heard wind that my classes were great. They were filling and wanted me to come rent a space in their martial arts gym. And I was 20 years old at the time. I was actually on track to become a high school history teacher. But I thought, that sounds fun. Like, why not? Have my own studio. I can make it my own business. And I really just dove head first all the way in from that phone call. And that was back in 2013. And that was a life-changing moment. I decided shortly after that, just a couple years in, that I didn't no longer wanted to go the traditional path of becoming a teacher. I thought this thing called entrepreneurship was really fun. It gave me a lot of creative freedom that I wouldn't really have going a more traditional route. But I've always had that like teacher within me. So I just got to teach in a different way. So my first business was called Zen and Pow Studio. It was a fitness and yoga studio, and I really just ran with it. I started learning new formats to teach. I started filling my classes. I did end up graduating college because I was paying for it. And I didn't want to just throw it out the window. But I graduated with basically a Bachelor of Science and nutrition minor that I could just do whatever I wanted to with. But as soon as I graduated college, I went even more deep dive in. I started personal training, and within 4 years of that original studio, I had outgrown that space. I was busting at the seams. I had full classes. I had some instructors at that point, and then I really took the leap into renting out my own space and doing my first build out and taking out my first business loan. And that's when I took that really big jump that I really started to experience the growing pains of entrepreneurship. But I've always had my family as an encouragement behind me. Both my parents were entrepreneurs. My sister is an entrepreneur, which I didn't realize at the time was a really unique situation. Most people don't have that kind of support. And so I was very lucky in that way, but it was also very lonely because they didn't really understand the type of business that I was building. And it wasn't until about 6 or 7 years into that business that I actually got a mentor who really showed me what was possible and what I could build through that business. I actually then took an even bigger leap to invest in a space in her building, my mentor's building, and that was 2019. So I laid out all my cards on the table, went full force, quadrupled my business loan in 2019. And we all know what happened then in 2020. So within about a decade, I got every business lesson thrown at me that I had to learn the hard way.
That is a perfect segue into what I wanted to ask you next, because also I think a lot of people see the success and they see what people have built and they're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. But realistically, like you said, okay, you took out that big loan and then we all know what happened in 2020. So in hard seasons, because there are hard seasons in entrepreneurship, it's not always easy, right? When maybe like revenue feels unpredictable, maybe you are not super motivated because it's not working and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have clients like I want, whatever it is. What do you do in order to help yourself stay grounded, stay motivated, keep moving forward, and basically like not throwing in the towel and just going and getting a regular 9 to 5?
There's been so many points on my journey that it would have probably made more sense to go get a regular job. And I just never did that. I just dug in deeper. And this is why I think having the soul piece in your business is so important, because it's what you come back to on your darkest, deepest valley days that you don't know where to turn to. You have to go deeper. So I wrote a whole book called Seasons of a Soulpreneur, because I think that having that connection to either a higher power, just like spirituality, is essential on the business journey. There are going to be so many days you don't know how you're going to get to the next following day. You don't know how you're going to pay your team or pay yourself or pay your bills without having that connection to yourself and also trusting that you will figure it out. You have to figure it out. So I had many days where I had to just figure it out. And I always disconnected from my business during those times, even if it was like a walk in nature, or I had a fitness and yoga studio. So like, could I do my own workout? Could I do some yoga, some meditation? Like, luckily I had access to a lot of those things. And I truly think that's what fueled me on some of these really dark days. But too often, I think what we do is we try to force and we try to push outcomes in those tough seasons, when actually what we need to do is take our hands off the wheel, go do something fun that actually like fills up our cup again and gives us that creative spark, gives us that idea that's going to get some revenue in the door, maybe a collaboration. So it's actually kind of counterintuitive, but when you're starting to feel burnt out or you're feeling the pressure, go do something fun, because that's what's going to reconnect you to your why, to your vision, to your core values, and to your soul. That is going to be the fuel for the journey.
Oh, I love that. Yes. I've learned that myself, especially recently. Like it's time to take a break. It's time to go to the beach. It's time to go for a walk. It's time to go see the sunset. And it helps every single time, rather than just sitting here and pushing and pushing and pushing. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's not working. Like, because you actually need to step back for a second, right? And on that note of your book, when you talk about the seasons of soulpreneurship, what are like the main seasons that you've noticed in business? And so that way, maybe somebody that's listening or watching, they can tell what season they're in right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first is planting, the obvious, the start of the business journey. It's exciting, it's full of ideas, but there's a lot of patience required in that season to get to the next season, which is growing. And that's where your schedule starts to get a little bit busier. Your client load starts to pick up. You're selling more, but you start to feel overwhelmed. You're like starting to feel some of those growing pains that are natural, that come with growth. But that's when you have to start maybe delegating, maybe adding some systems, some automations, or even your first hire in that growth season. And eventually, if we're going to keep growing, we're going to hit a storm. So the storm is often the kind of unforeseen challenge that comes out of nowhere. Like we just don't see it coming. For me, that was COVID. It was something that I could have never predicted, but it was such a huge storm that kind of like, it shook me to my core and all the momentum that I had built up. And the storm is often where, like I said, people want to quit, they want to give up, maybe go back to that safety net, that 9 to 5, or they want to dig in deeper instead of reflecting, taking time away, actually understanding what you want out of your business when you're in a storm. Like, what is it that actually brings you joy and what you're doing? And you have to find a way to get back to doing that on a daily basis. Oftentimes we work our way out of the roles that we actually enjoy, that we started with in our business. So figuring out during that heavy season, doing more reflection. It's not a season of expanding, right? It's a season of actually contracting and getting rid of the things that are no longer working or not lighting you up. And if you stick it out, if you stick out that storm, then you get to experience the harvest. And the harvest is so much sweeter when you have already weathered a storm. And most of the time, we don't really get to a harvest season without some sort of storm. And when I say harvest, it's like your business is not only thriving, but you're also not doing all of the things anymore. You're optimizing, you're training up and mentoring your team. You can step away from your business and actually enjoy, the fruits of your labor without needing to go back in and do everything yourself. And it's cyclical. Business and life are cyclical. So after that harvest, the problem with the harvest is that we get bored. We actually start creating problems, or we start creating new businesses because we've now worked our way out of the business that we originally built. So it might look like launching something new and going back to planting. It might look like, writing a book and going back to planting, like whatever that kind of next chapter is. Usually you're starting over. And we like to just think that the business journey is linear. We go from planting to growing to storms to harvest, and then we just hang out at harvest. And that is just not the case at all. I wish it was, but it's not, right? So my biggest thing is that I teach in my community and just on stages that I speak on is having fun along the journey. We have to learn to enjoy the magic and the mundaneness of this thing called business, because it is never ending. Unless we actually close our business, sell our business, or retire, we're always going to be somewhere along the seasons.
That's so true. And I love thinking of it that way. And I'm wondering if that's more like before we hit record, we were talking about how it's so different from where I live to where Stephanie lives, and talking about so much of a farming reference because you're from the Midwest, maybe.
It's a gardening metaphor.
Right. It really is.
Farming, gardening. Yeah. Yep.
I love that. But also, so you said when 2020 hit and you're in that storm, right? Like you're in that hard moment. How did you, because now you don't do what you did when you first started. So how did you pivot? How did you rebuild momentum when all of this uncertainty is happening? And for me, I'm a person that I like to have control over my life and control over situations. And we talked about this on your podcast when you had me. I was like, and I think a lot of women do, and a lot of moms do. It's because we are the leaders normally in our family, in our businesses, in our lives, right? And so when you start throwing all this stuff our way that we don't have control over, it's hard for us to deal with. So I'm curious as to how you rebuilt momentum and pivoted into what you're doing now during that time.
Absolutely. And I've always tried to look at every challenge in my life and business as an opportunity for me. Something better is actually coming through that challenge. So for COVID, it only sped up the process of me realizing that business was unsustainable and that my dream of building up that studio was no longer for me. I started it when I was 20 years old. My dream going into my 30th year was not the same. So it was a blessing in disguise. It didn't feel like it at the time at all. And it really brought me to my rock bottom moment. But I weathered 2020. We went hybrid. We did virtual streaming. We did both. And we did that all through 2020. But it was really 2021 and 2022 that were so much more challenging because people were zoomed out. The grants and the PPP were all gone. And then it was really just figuring out what does it look like to move forward through this. And I know that I could have kept going and rebuilding, but I was honestly burnt out and I wanted something different. And I wanted to build a business that was more sustainable without me because I wanted to start a family. So it was about 2021, 5 years ago this month, actually, that I started the community that I'm leading now, Small Business Sister Circle, with my actual sister. It was an idea that I had to rally women together in our local area to just support each other as business owners. Because like I said, up until the point that I even had found my mentor, it was very lonely, very isolating journey. Yes, I had a team. Yes, I had my family, but not everyone really understands the pressure that you're under unless you are the owner, you're the CEO. So we just started doing pop-ups and different things, and we created a conference, and that was really fun. But my business really started to take over my entire life by 2022 because it was just so difficult. By the end of that summer, I had to make a huge pivot. I never in a million years thought that I would see myself as a realtor, but that was actually an opportunity that my sister and the team that she's on offered me to join their real estate team so that I could make money. Like, I needed to make money. I had bills to pay. I had a very expensive business loan and rent and all of those things. And at that point, I was like, why not? Why not try it and just see what happens? Well, within a couple months of becoming a realtor, I realized doing that full time and running this studio and this team was not going to be sustainable. And at that point, I just was ready to move on and do something else. So I actually walked away from that studio with still about $100,000 that I owed on it at the end of 2022 and decided to basically just do pop-up classes and see where that would go. So I did that. I decided at that time I was leaving that studio to somehow launch a new membership through Sister Circle. I had this like calling on my soul. It made absolutely no sense. But the reason I was able to start real estate, launch Sister Circle as a community, downsize my other business, and do all of these things is because I took my audience along on the journey and I built it around a personal brand. My brand, what my life experience was and my business experience was. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping business owners build something beyond them, like beyond just themselves, but also bring your audience into the experience. So within a year, I decided I didn't want to do that business at all anymore. It was too unsustainable to run 3 businesses at once. My community was taking off and I was ready to start my family. So I did that first business for a full decade. I learned so much. It is what has given me the credibility to do what I do now and lead other business owners and build community, because that's what that business was. It wasn't about the workouts at the end of the day. It wasn't about the yoga. It was about the community for women that I had built. And so now I just get to do that for business owners.
I love that. And, so many conversations that I have been having recently, because we do tend to pivot. And, I also find that there's a lot of people that I've been interviewing that maybe they were in a corporate job or they were in a 9 to 5. And even myself, I was 27 years at Costco, but what I started to realize, and what you probably realize with that other business, is that experience comes with you. Like, that experience doesn't die with that business or die with that job. You don't leave that experience there. And once I started to realize that, I was like, oh, wait, I literally have been an unofficial mentor for 20 years helping people like get hired, get promoted, learn all of these things. I was like, I still have all of that. I still have all of that experience and all of that knowledge. And now how can I apply that into this business? And I love that with the Small Business Sister Circle, you talk about that. You talk about sisterhood, you talk about soul, but you also talk about strategy. And I want to know, so when someone comes to you, like, what does that look like for them, for you to actually sit down and say, okay, here's what we're going to look at. Because is it just business owners in your community?
I would say primarily, but we also have people that are in sales roles that are basically like fully commission based as well. We have people that send a team member that can benefit from some of the topics that we discuss. We have people who haven't started their business yet, but they want to learn about business so they can make smart decisions. And I love that. Like, if every business owner could take some courses before they launch their business, right? Just to get them going in the right direction. We also have veteran business owners who have been at it for many, many years who pour wisdom into our community, but they're there for, maybe some new strategies. Maybe they're just there because they do need to get poured into. They're further along in their journey, but they need that reminder of why they're doing what they're doing on a monthly basis. So really depends on where people are coming in, but we serve all ages and stages of business ownership. And I really feel like that is the value that comes with it. Is like, you have people who are in retirement running businesses. You have people who are in college starting businesses. You have moms starting businesses at stay-at-home moms, like people in all different seasons of life and business that are coming together with that common goal of growth. And growth doesn't always mean, bigger or scaling. It's just whatever their definition of success is. They get to decide for themselves, and they get to decide what they want out of the community. We have people that are just solely online and love tapping into our calls, or just being in our virtual community where they'll tune in every Monday. We do a Momentum Monday thread where it's like, what do you want to be held accountable for this week? We have people that show up to that every single week. We have people that only come in person because they really thrive on that human connection. We have people that do all of those things. So I just love the beauty of it because we can really meet people with where they're at and what they need.
I love that so much. And I agree with you that at times, of course, this can be lonely. And, and I think for me, because I was working at such a huge place with so many people, that's what people are like, well, don't you miss it? And I say, sometimes I go, the thing is, I miss some of the people. That's what it is. I miss the interaction with the people. Do I miss going there and having to do the same thing every single day over and over and over again? No, I don't miss that part, but that's why, when we talk about community creation and attending events and finding all of these things, like I found that if I took the things that I really truly loved about the job that I had and try to incorporate those into my business now, I'm like, oh, this is where the reward comes because now I get to choose, right? And also something else that you talk about is like the magic in the mundane, right? And I always want to give my listeners like tangible tools and tips or things that they can implement like immediately. But every day there are things that we do that we might not love, that eventually, like you said, maybe you can outsource or you can do whatever. But I would say that there are probably some repeatable habits that maybe we don't always talk about that actually move the needle, that make a difference. And so I was wondering if you had maybe two or three like small habits that can create some massive results for people in their business.
Yeah. And this is where I get to pull in my past self running a fitness and yoga studio into business, because it is about habits and rituals and rhythms and things that support us on a daily basis. For me, that has always been some sort of movement. I love working out, but I will be honest, like I'm a newer mom. My son's about a year and a half, and I lost a lot of my morning routine becoming a mom. And I didn't realize it right away until about a year postpartum. And I just didn't even feel like I felt or looked like myself anymore. So I actually had to go back to the basics. And that started with one daily habit that became a catalyst to all these other things that I do now. And that was simply drinking hot lemon water immediately upon waking. Just squeeze a little lemon into hot water as soon as I wake up. And I had heard about it. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to try this. Like, let's just see what it does for me. Woke up a little bit before my son to be able to do that. And that started to stick. And I thought, okay, I'm doing this so that I don't immediately drink coffee. I'm a caffeine addict. So I was trying to just do something a little healthier for my nervous system to start the day. And then I started adding journaling with that, or reading a book with that hot lemon water. And then I started getting up just a little bit earlier so I had the time to do these things. And then I started adding protein to my coffee. Like, it literally just started habit stacking on top of it. Then I joined a gym so that I could actually leave my house to go do some workouts, because I wasn't really getting the same benefit trying to motivate myself at home. So for me, it was literally just starting my day with one thing, one habit that I could then stack other things on. And I don't do all of them every single day, but that one thing I do every single day, no matter what my morning looks like. And it's that hot lemon water. I also walk my dog every single day. This is why pets are so great. I live in Wisconsin. We get 0-degree weather, and I still walk my dog because I have a husky and she loves the cold. So it's like I have to walk my dog every single day. That's movement for me. The other thing that I do every single day is what I call my Soulpreneur check-in. This is something I created for myself. I write affirmations. I write my big three. And then I write three amazing things that have happened, three big goals that I'm working towards, and then three amazing things about to happen. So it's just like a connection back to gratitude, right? So those are just small things that I do every single day, but they ground me in the present. And there are plenty of days where I don't want to walk. I don't want to get up. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't feel like doing my work. But when I do those small things, they support me and motivate me to do the things that fill me up. Like there are going to be days where we don't want to do certain tasks, but when we show up anyways, we build that resilience. And at the end of the day, they're the habits and rituals that ground me in the craziest seasons. It's usually the busy seasons that we actually lose a lot of these rituals and rhythms, but that's when we need them the most. So even for me in the summertime, I'm out in my garden every single night, watering my garden. Last week it was 95 degrees and humid and the bugs are like eating me alive, and I'm still out there doing it because that's how I get a harvest. So if we're not willing to do the things we don't want to do when it sucks, we can't expect the harvest to come because we didn't actually, weather those storms or water during those droughts to earn the harvest. So it's like really thinking about what are the things every single day that support me and ground me, even if it's 5 minutes, and how can I do those every single day and find joy in them? And so they're not so monotonous and mundane.
I love that. And I love that the things that you're talking about for those people that are listening and watching is that those aren't even necessarily business things.
No,
Those are things
most of them are.
for your soul, that you need. And that's why, I talk a lot that everything is like it's mind, body, and soul. It is a
Yep.
whole entire thing. It's your physical health, your mental health, like your emotional health, all of it goes together. You cannot focus on one without focusing on the other. So I love that when you started that, the biggest thing I tell people too is about prioritizing yourself. And literally you're like, I need to wake up earlier than my kid so that I can prioritize myself and do all of these things to fill my cup so that I'm then able to fill other people's cup, and it really truly is about pouring into yourself before you're able to pour into everybody else, because you're not going to be able to do that or sustain. What I found is sustain that when you are trying to be everything for everybody else and you haven't done even drinking your hot lemon water in the morning for yourself, right? Like it's impossible. It's not sustainable. And what I found for myself is it probably is what ended up physically manifesting itself in my life, in my health, because I wasn't doing practices like that before and I wasn't prioritizing myself. So I love that that's what you start with and that's what you focus on. And then, like you said, once you're habit stacking, then that's when everything else starts to fall into place. But that's where you begin. And so I think that those are perfect and also easy things for people to do, and I think that that's where people also get a little intimidated because they're like, oh, I don't have time and I don't have this. And like she said, you don't have to revamp your whole entire life, at once, but start small. And then once you have that down and that's consistent, then that's when you can start adding other habits on top of it.
Absolutely. And anyone who wants to grow something big with their business and their life, if you're not taking care of yourself, then what is the point? You're going to get burned out, or you're going to have some sort of health crisis where you can't even enjoy the harvest season. So you absolutely have to take care of yourself along the way. And I don't necessarily think it's the message that business owners want to hear when they ask, how do you scale and grow a business? How do you, 10x this and that? And it's literally that simple. Like I am scaling and growing my business in a way that is sustainable while I have a young child by taking care of myself. I'm not saying it's easy, but it is that simple. It's through my daily rituals, my weekly rhythms, and those two things together create the resilience and the nervous system regulation to be able to actually do big things. And there are weekly business rhythms. Like I can talk about those too, but I'm guessing that that's nothing new either. Like the things that I have to do every single week are pretty much show up on social media, email my email list, make some sales reach outs, whether that's in person, DMing, email, maybe all of the above, and do a pulse on my financials. If I do those every single week, that would take me a couple hours and I could probably clock out. Now, I'm doing other projects, right? But I'm talking about the things that people need to prioritize, business owners need to prioritize every single week in order to actually grow their business. Because we are honestly spending so much time doing things that are not necessarily needle moving activities, right? I have people that will say, well, I'm posting on social. I'm like, great, that's called marketing. Sales are actually having conversations with people. How many conversations did you have this week? That's how you convert to revenue, right? How many emails did you send to your list? That's what converts to revenue. How many in-person coffee connections did you have that were great collaborations, right? Like all of those things lead to an increase in revenue. But so often we're like stuck behind our business doing monotonous things that are not needle moving or revenue generating. And then we get burnt out and wonder why our business isn't growing. And so many business owners are afraid of selling when that should be like your number one priority every single week.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you just touched on collaboration. And one of the things that you mentioned is like that organic community and collaboration is a secret sales strategy.
Yes.
And so for people that are wondering, like, what do you even mean by that? Like, what do you mean by collaboration? Maybe they're feeling like, oh, I don't have a large following. Who am I to even ask anybody to collaborate? So maybe you can give some examples of ways that people can collaborate with each other, ways they can, like what we're doing right now, leveraging each other's audiences, right? Like you come on my podcast, I go on your podcast, it gets you in front of like a whole new audience. And, for people that might be intimidated to reach out and ask about a collaboration, like where can they even start?
I love this because collaboration is like my favorite thing. And I always say like the words community and collaboration often get intermixed, but they are not the same. Community is like a group of people that stands alone regardless of whether you're like tapping into it or not. We're probably all a part of multiple communities, but how many of those are we really tapping into and, like you said, leveraging? Whereas collaboration does exist unless you intentionally create it, right? So you can be a part of a community, you can be part of a million communities, but you're not going to get any collaboration out of it unless you're actually intentionally going into it and finding those people that you connect with, that maybe you have a similar audience. Maybe you're serving similar people, but in a different way. So I look at it as like those kind of pillar people, right? Like maybe it is truly the same audience that you're serving. Maybe it is something where you both can come together and serve in your strength and your genius. It could also just be something where you might not need their business or service directly, but you know someone else who does, right? So it doesn't always have to be like everyone is a direct client or even collaborator. It could be a referral partner. We call them brand partners. It could be honestly your biggest cheerleader. And I think so often we look at people just solely through the lens of, is this person my ideal client or not? And if they're not, we kind of write them off as like, that's not worth spending my time on. But that might not be true because they could be your biggest referrer because they just love you. So like really truly looking at your relationships that you're cultivating and that they're not just transactional, right? Like you're actually building up those different kind of partners and people in your life so that you become that person that is top of mind and you're also reciprocating and giving that to other people. So I love in-person events. So I love collaborating with like venues. Maybe it's coffee partners. We do this a lot with our chapters. We help them find a venue brand partner and a coffee partner. And then that's just like local ways to shout each other out. I also love just seeing women collaborate together on events as well. Like I see a lot of women doing retreats where it's like, I'll host the retreat, you'll come in and speak and give, your bit of genius to it. I've done a lot of collaborations with people that specialize in different areas of business, like marketing. We've done marketing workshops or we've worked with a marketing company. They'll come in, we'll kind of co-teach it because I have the community, they have the marketing experience, and we'll get to collaborate together. I do tons of sponsorships for our events, and I'm just always trying to think if someone is not necessarily my ideal client, or they're just maybe not right now going to step inside my world as a paying client, how could we collaborate in a different way?
Hmm.
Could they be a part of my event? Could they provide an experience for my members that I can't give or someone in our community doesn't have? I'm always looking at ways to collaborate so that it's a win-win for both parties, and that, we're going to get to experience something new and cool, and they're going to get to share their gifts or share their product with a new audience.
I love that. And for me, I mean, I think that's been probably one of the biggest things, because there are those of us that are doing similar things. And this is where the collaboration comes in, like, "Oh, you're hosting events. Well, guess what? I make merchandise, like we're literally just talking about there's so many
Yeah.
different ways that we can support each other. And I would way rather support a woman that's in this space, and that's what I'm finding, is because there's a lot of things that people do. And it's like, where are you getting your other stuff from? Where are you getting your information from? Who are you asking to come teach in your communities and do all of this? And, sometimes you're just like finding random people, or you're ordering things off of Etsy or Amazon or whatever it is that you're doing, and it's like, that's why I love the collaboration so much, because it's like, how can we just support each other in this space? And, there's so many different skills and techniques that everybody has. And I love that you open it up like that, because once you start thinking of it in that sense, we really, truly can all help each other, or probably know someone that they can help. Like, hey, I want to connect you with so and so. I want to connect you with so and so. And I just think that that part of it is so magical, because even before we hit record, we were like, okay, you live in Wisconsin, I live in California. And we realized how many people we know in common, which is just so wild. And that's literally solely because of this space, because of social media, because of communities that we're in, because of people that have gone to her events and people that have come seen me speak at events that I've been at. And it's so wild how that ends up happening when I think that people that are not in this space, that's one of the funniest things to them when I have these conversations. They're like, what do you mean you're going to go like in a car ride with a woman that you've never met because she's landing at LAX and you guys are going to an event in Fresno? And I'm like, it's not that weird. Like, we've talked
We've met
online, we've
online.
hopped on a Zoom, and they're like, but if people aren't in this space, I think they truly think it's a little bit strange sometimes. They're like, what do you mean you talk to these people all the time? You never met them in person? I'm like, yeah, because I mean, how could I meet them? They live like all the way across the US.
Yeah, well, and the best entrepreneurs are always keeping a running list of collaborators and connections, not just for themselves, but for other people too. And
Yeah.
sometimes I can't turn it off. Like, we'll go somewhere to some local place, and I'm always looking to meet the owner, because if I have an idea for like, oh, this would be great venue for this, or their ice cream is so good, we should do this, like, I can't turn it off. My husband's like, of course you're like thinking of another collaboration. I'm like, this is the fun part.
Yes.
It
Yes.
is the fun part. It's the creativity. It's doing business again in community and collaboration with other people. And that is truly what fuels me on the business journey. If I had to do everything myself and sit behind this desk all day and not talk to anyone, I mean, how boring. I would
Yeah.
not be an entrepreneur as long as I have been. So it really is the people, it's the fun, it's the creativity, it's the unlimited, untapped potential that is out there. And that's what fuels so many of the women that I know and those in my community and beyond.
Hmm. And I think that we find each other because of that. It's like we are like-minded, and then we get connected. And it's like, yeah, we could be in a networking group of 53 people, but there's a reason, why the two of us were like, oh, we should talk, we should chat. There's a reason why we took it off that community, went to
Yeah.
Instagram, started talking, scheduling calls, podcast interviews, all the things. But the other thing too that, and I talk about it a ton on my social media, my podcast, everything is mindset, and how freaking powerful that is. And I want to know if there's maybe one mindset shift that you see like consistently unlock a next level for entrepreneurs that are maybe they're feeling stuck and they're feeling like, okay, I'm building something, but like you said, it's requiring so much of me and my time that this is not sustainable, it's not scalable. But what is is there a specific shift that you think happens that all of a sudden it just kind of like clicks for people, and they are able to then see the light and see how they are going to be able to take their business to the next level.
Yeah, I think you have to surrender to the fact that you can't do it all alone. You can't build it all yourself, or you're going to get stuck working in areas of frustration that are not your zone of genius. And every time I feel afraid to, let's say, hire someone, even really part-time, like a couple hours a month, right? Most of us can afford that. Every time I look to do that fear comes up, right? Of like, can I afford to do that? Every time
Hmm.
I just go for it anyways, new level unlocked, right? Like next level, like I get to spend more time doing the things that fill me up, that fuel me. And so not getting stuck in the how am I going to do this all myself? And it's like that who, not how, right? Like who actually could help me do this? And the more that I have surrendered to the mindset that I'm not building this myself, I'm building this for the legacy of so many women, and it's so much bigger than me. The more I surrender to let people come in and help me and support me. And so often we're like death gripping on
Hmm.
these things that don't really matter. Like at the end of the day, when if we let them go and just kind of surrender to what's possible, I think we'll always be pleasantly surprised by like who walks in the door next or who reaches out. And I think we live in an economy now where like you don't need full-time employees. Like no one I know is necessarily building their business with full-time employees. Like it's part-time, it's fractional this, it's 10 hours there, it's interns. Like I have built businesses without a huge budget for payroll, but I think it's because I have used that mindset of like I can't and I don't want to do this all myself. So how can I build this in a way and who can help me? And really invited people into my vision. But you have to like surrender and be able to let go of gripping onto everything yourself and really invite people into your vision. People want to help you and people love working in the areas of your business that you hate. You just have to find the right people.
That is the part right there. I know when I decided that I was going to put the podcast on YouTube, I was like, I don't want to learn another platform. I don't
No.
want to do this. I can tell you straight up, I don't have the time. I don't have the bandwidth. And that's when I hired. And I said, okay, I just want you already do this for other people. So clearly you do it way better than I can. I said, you can I do kind of like to know a little bit about it, but then after a while, I said, you know what? You just take it over. I release control. And it was so funny because, yes, I still I approve it. I approve the shorts. I look at all the
Mhm.
things, right? But when we were out of town at the beginning of this week, normally I approve it by Tuesday. It releases on Wednesday. I call her. I leave her a voice memo. I said, you have my full blessing. You've been doing this for 3 months already. I am offline. I don't even have my laptop. I said, so here you go. And it was so freeing for me to actually, just like you said, release the control. And I told her,
Mhm.
go ahead, post the video, post it. I trust you. And she was like, also, thank you. You know what I mean? And felt so good that I had that confidence in her to just do it and take care of it. And I was like, geez, I feel like I should just do that every week.
I was going to say, yeah, you probably don't even need it to like, I know. And my podcast person still sends it to me too. And I've told her the same thing. Like, you don't need my approval. Like, I
Yeah.
wouldn't have hired you if I didn't trust you to do this. And I say that to all of my team. Like, I am fully empowering you to make decisions that think I would make. And if I didn't trust you, I wouldn't have hired you to
Yeah.
carry out these things for me. So yes, that's such a perfect example of just like surrendering, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like none of that is life or death. Like there's nothing that really needs to be approved by you, right? Like you recorded
Right.
the podcast, you know what you want it to say, you've already said the thing. And I think there's a lot of that in our business that we have to let go of and we
Yeah.
have to learn to surrender. And I would just say too, like as far as a shift, getting out of my head more. Like anytime I catch myself in my head, doubting, fears, scarcity, comparing, any of those things, I go move my body. I dance, I work out, I walk. Like I literally just get out of my head whenever I catch myself there too much. And again, I think that's kind of like a hack that maybe we all know the benefits of moving our body, but I don't think we fully understand how much we have going on up here that we
Yes.
store in our body then. So if we can just like move it out, feel the feels and move it out, we'll be so much better off. And bonus that it's like good for us too, right? It's like physically
Right.
good for us. But a lot of times I move my body because I'm trying to get out of my head, not so much
Hmm.
necessarily for just the health benefits. I just need to get some energy out, release some nerves, some fears, some doubts, whatever that is. And I usually do that through movement.
Yeah, I agree so much. And I know the days that I get up and I do my workouts, like those days are such better days than when I don't do that. And I mean, it just goes to show like you start your day. And I tell my oldest daughter, because she's 12, and I tell her like the way I start my day is the way my day is going to go. So if I
Yeah.
decide to be lazy and I'm laying in my bed and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to scroll for a little bit, for some reason that whole entire day I can't get my phone out of my hand. I literally
Yes.
can't. But if I
Yeah.
wake up and I work out and like I get my water and I do my thing and I take my vitamins, I'm like, oh my God, then my whole day I feel productive. And it's just so crazy how that happens. And so she was like, oh, you know what, mom, I think you're right. Because it's summertime, they're out of school and she's
Yeah.
laying on the couch. And I'm like, don't start your day like that. Like, don't start your day scrolling on YouTube. Like, come on, get up. And she's just like, you know, mom, I do think that there's something to that, which she tells me the other day. But yeah, I mean, I do think that it's just those little habits, but movement is huge for sure. Taking walks, getting in the sunshine, like breaking up that monotony definitely, definitely helps. And I want to say for the people that are listening and they're like, okay, I'm loving Stephanie. I want to know, how can I plug in? I want support. Like, what are the best ways to connect with you to become part of the Small Business Sister Circle?
Yeah, I would say connect with us on Instagram. If you want to connect with me personally, it's Stephanie Lee, that's Lea Ross, and small business sister circle. You can look and see where we have a local chapter. And if there isn't one, you can reach out about starting one in your city. My heart and soul is really in bringing these in person chapters to small towns and communities, especially in the Midwest where I live, and we don't have this type of community vibe to these areas because it is such a need. And these small towns need it. And you don't have to move to a big city to have big dreams, is kind of my thing, like small town, big dreams. So connect with us on Instagram, or you can head over to sistercircle.co. You can also check out my book and read that if you love the gardening metaphor. It really is just my entire journey through entrepreneurship, a lot of the challenges that many of us face and or try to avoid. And I'd love to connect with you wherever you hang out.
I love that. And I'll drop everything in the show notes. All the links will be there so that you guys can connect with Stephanie. You guys can go follow her. And as always, we would love it if you guys loved this episode, if you guys would share it, if you guys would tag us in your stories. Maybe you send it to somebody else that is, at this stage in business where they're like, oh, this might be a really, really great episode for them, because sharing it, rating it, reviewing it, that's how the word gets out. That's how more people discover us. And we would absolutely so appreciate that. And we would love to talk to you, like in our DMs. We are actual real people that have been through it, that are going through it, and we're here for you. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I loved this conversation.
Thank you. Me too. So fun.
And as always, I hope that you guys go create some sunshine in your lives today.